Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jannaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Raya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari. Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON-Sanstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Śrīmad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prashatya Desha Tarine. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 5th canto, chapter 8, the character of Bharat Maharaj, text 21. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, this is prose, but we can still try to, in parts, repeat it, okay? Huh? Why is that? Why? You can repeat as I chant. That's what I'm saying. It's prose, but still we can do parts. You just repeat, that's all. Kṣvelikāyāṁ mṛṣā-samādhināmīlita-dṛśaṁ prema-saṁrambheṇa cakita-cakita āgatya pṛṣad-aparuṣa-viṣāṇāgreṇa luṭhati kṣvelikāyāṁ mṛṣā-samādhināmīlita-dṛśaṁ prema-saṁrambheṇa cakita-cakita Āgatya pṛṣad-aparuṣa-viṣāṇāgreṇa luṭhati. Kṣvelikāyāṁ mṛṣā-samādhināmīlita-dṛśaṁ. Prema-saṁrambheṇa cakita-cakita. Agatya pṛṣad-aparuṣa-viṣāṇāgreṇa luṭhati. Kṣvelikāyāṁ, while playing. Mam, unto me. Mṛṣā, feigning. Samādhinā, by a meditational trance. Āmīlita-dṛśam, with closed eyes. Prema-saṁrambheṇa, because of anger due to love. Cakita-cakita, with fear. Agatya, coming. Pṛṣat, like drops of water. Aparuṣa, very soft. Viṣāṇa, of the horns. Agreṇa, by the point. Luṭhati, touches my body. So this is Bharat Maharaj speaking, and the background is that he rescued the deer which had fallen into the water, and he had taken it to his ashram, and he is developing more and more affection for the deer. That's quite elevated. Today affection is developed for cats and dogs and spiders and snakes, and people have all kinds of pets. So deers are, much nicer. So he developed more and more affection, and he began to treat the deer practically as his own son. He called it a prince. And now he says, alas, the small deer, while playing with me and seeing me feigning meditation with closed eyes, would circumambulate me due to anger arising from love, and it would fearfully touch me with the points of its soft horns, which felt like drops of water. So Prabhupada sometimes comments, he says if somebody is in love, he can say so many crazy things. Purport. Now King Bharata considers his meditation false. While engaged in meditation, he was actually thinking of his deer, and he would feel great pleasure when the animal pricked him with the points of its horns. Feigning meditation, the king would actually think of the animal, and this was but a sign of his downfall. So generally, people have no idea how dangerous it is to develop attachment for something in this material world. Generally, it's another living entity. Generally, it's a human being. Generally, that's, we all want relationships, loving relationships. Therefore, family life is very prominent in human society. at least used to be. Even that nowadays is apparently changing. Attachments have become, how you would say, distorted. The classic relationship, husband, wife, and children, is it's practically disappearing in many places. But still, the tendency and the desire to have a relationship is natural, because we are related to Krishna. And there's Krishna's family. Prabhupada says we should join Krishna's family, the Krishna Gotra. There's Krishna Gotra in the spiritual world. So Krishna has his relationships with his mother and father, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, with his friends, with his servants, his lovers, and with animals also. His pet is the cow, not the deer. But there's also deer in Vrindavan, we know that, the black deer. And when they hear Krishna's flute is described, they become stunned. And Krishna also embraces the animals. He calls them by his names. So it's kind of natural to have these relationships. But when this happens in the material world, it becomes the cause of bondage. As Srila Prabhupada explains, and we will read this purport from Bhagavad Gita, where he mentions Bharat Maharaj, Yang Yang Vapi Smaram Bhavam, the verse which explains how we change material bodies. It's a process, and we all know this. You have studied the philosophy. It's the subtle body that carries the soul from one situation to the other. According to the mentality we have developed, we enter into the womb of a particular mother, whether it's a human mother or an animal mother, and there we develop a new body according to that mentality. So in that verse from the 8th chapter, verse number 6, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, the process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body thinking of Krishna attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord, but it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Because this will come. I mean, those who are sitting right in front of me, most of you are a lot younger than me. Looks like, at least. There's a few over there who are a little older. And you may think, or we sometimes say, oh, you have your life in front of you, right? How old are you? 25, my God. It's like half a century ago for me. So you may think, or your parents may think, oh, you have your whole life in front of you. Don't become a Hare Krishna. Don't be stupid. Become an IT expert and become rich. Have a beautiful family and a dozen children. Well, nowadays you don't have a dozen children. But that's what we think. But it's not necessarily true. You may be older than me. You may die tomorrow. Hare Krishna. It will not happen, but may happen, or it may happen today. And maybe I still have a few years to go. So this is all relative. We don't know when this critical point will come, as Prabhupada says. It's a critical point because what is the future? Where do we go from here? Now we think, oh, I have this situation and it's very nice and this and that, but the next step, what will it be? again a human being? Maybe. Maybe an animal, maybe a plant, maybe something else. So, how can one die in the proper state of mind? Because if the state of mind is not proper, then the future is could be very dark. It's unknown, and probably it's dark. Whatever is below human existence, it's dark. And even within human existence, who knows where we end up if we take birth again as a human being? Maybe in India, maybe not. And where, we don't know. Maybe in China. Better not in Wuhan. Dangerous place. You may think America. Well, you may be thinking like that, but the American dream has become an American nightmare. So that's also not a good option. Maybe Germany. I don't recommend. I've been there and I left it behind and I'm not going back. I'm going back for just speaking about Krishna, but anyway. So Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Puna Vartinorjuna. There's no place in this material world. Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. It's all places of misery, so it's not a good idea to come back here. So therefore, yes, Krishna recommends you should die in the proper state of mind. And what is that? You think of me. As he says in the previous verse, we can go back to verse number 5. It's an important verse also. Antakale chamam eva. Antakale, at the end of time that we have in this body, smaran muktva kalevaram. Then if one remembers by giving up the body, me, then yak prayati samad-bhavam, you come to my nature. And yati nastyartha sankshaya, there is no doubt about it. So that's the recommendation. Whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me, he will attain my nature. And if we don't remember Krishna, then yang vapismaram bhavam tyajantate kalevanam tang tang evaiti kaunteya. There you will go, whatever you remember. And therefore he continues in this purport to say, Bharat Maharaj, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's future life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So, that's it. That's all we have to do. That's the whole process of Krishna consciousness is meant for that. Therefore, Prabhupada called his society the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The idea is to change one's consciousness to think of Krishna. So that at the end of life, at this critical point, we'll be successful. Because the body has to be changed. That's no doubt about that. And the way we think, or whatever is the state of mind at that point, this critical point, that will determine the future. So therefore, it's not that it doesn't matter. It matters a lot. So therefore here and Prabhupada, when he talks about this pastime, he says, this is very instructive. Because here we can learn, first of all, what not to do. To develop this kind of attachment is not at all recommended. But it may happen. And it's very instructive because, yes, Bharat Maharaj was not ordinary person at all. He was very much advanced in devotional service even, in meditation. He had come to the stage of bhava. The description is there in the previous chapter, how much he had advanced, and it's surprising that we may think, how is it possible that still he became attached to the deer? So that's why it's so important. Even though one may be very advanced, if one is not careful, this may happen. Just by association, sangat sanjayate kama. Depending on the kind of association one may have, different desires develop. If we have good association, Vaishnava association, naturally, in one sense, naturally, a desire develops to serve Krishna and think of Krishna and of obeisance to Krishna, manmana, bhava, mat, bhakto, the four essential activities. But if the association is mundane, material, then even though one may try to maintain his spiritual consciousness, it will be very difficult because association influences a lot. So, let me see, I wanted to find this verse where it says that his mind was like a clear lake. You remember that? And that was just the description of Bharat Maharaj. His mind was like a clear lake. So that means he had become purified. Who can say, I wouldn't say my mind is like a clear lake. Your mind is like a clear lake? What is it like? Like a turbulent river? Huh? That's more what it's like. So anyway, his mind had become like a clear lake. Still, by this situation that he rescued the deer and he had it nearby, his mind changed. From the clear lake, now it becomes muddy. There's all kinds of emotions rising within his heart, because mind is not just thinking. We know mind or heart means, the subtle body means thinking, feeling, and willing. And feeling is a very powerful part of one's being, the way we feel. It may even overpower many, many times the way we think. Our clear thinking may be completely disturbed by feelings. So therefore, in this case, his feelings for the deer clouded completely his thinking, clear thinking. He became illusioned, completely illusioned. As I said in the previous verse, he feels the deer is exactly like a prince. I mean, you know, how has your consciousness to be to see a deer as a prince? Right? But that's due to feelings. Prabhupada gives the example of a person who is very much attached to a child that may be even blind, will call the son Padmalochana, lotus-eyed, but the child is blind. So as I said, and Prabhupada said that, if one is in this so-called love, you say any crazy thing. So that's happening here to Bharat Maharaj. He sees the deer as a prince. He embraces it. He sleeps with it. He feeds it, and he's always thinking of it. And now in this verse, it is describing that even his meditation, which had been focused on Krishna, now it's like a kind of feigning, pretending. He pretends to meditate, but he doesn't really meditate. He's thinking of the deer. It's deer meditation. It's not Krishna meditation. So deer meditation is not good. Dog meditation is worse. I mean, to become a deer, it's practically in the mode of goodness compared to becoming a dog, right? In one sense. Anyway, so yes, we should learn from this incidents, from this you could say pastime, from this story of the King Bharat, how one has to be very careful. Like here, I think it's one of the next purports, Prabhupada says, when a person becomes overly involved in loving affairs, like now King Bharat is in love with the deer, he forgets himself as well as others, and he forgets how to act and how to speak. Yeah, you become a little crazy. A fool in love. This is a typical concept. And here he says that. I hadn't seen this. It is said that once when a man's son was blind since birth, the father, out of staunch affection for the child, named him Padmalochana, lotus-eyed. This is the situation arising from blind love. Bharat Maharaj gradually fell into this condition due to his material love for the deer. So that is one of the main, or maybe the main problem we face in life, where to put our affections, because affections, you cannot avoid them, and we shouldn't avoid them. Who wants to avoid affection? It's the essence of life. Love, prema-saṁrambheṇa, it's the highest goal in life, to develop affection, love for Krishna. But if it's not for Krishna, it has to go somewhere, and it may go to a deer, or to a dog, or generally to another human being. But wherever it may be, it doesn't matter where it goes. If it's not Krishna, then it becomes a binding force, and it will condition us. Then we have to come back, take another birth, and continue to live with this kind of feelings. So we have to change it. That's the only thing that is necessary. There's another verse in Bhagavad Gita, I just remember, I think it's the 7th chapter, because Prabhupada speaks about this. It's, the attachment. Sometimes we think, or we hear, that we have to become detached, right? Detachment is vairagya. Raga is attachment, so vairagya, no attachment. You have to become free from attachment. Detached, what does it mean? No more attachment? No, how can it be? Attachment has to be there. So therefore, in that context, Srila Prabhupada quotes verse number 1 from the 7th chapter. Maya asakta manak parta. Asakti is one of the stages in devotional service. Nishta, ruchi, asakti. It means attachment. Then the taste for Krishna consciousness intensifies. So this asakta, Krishna says, Mai asakta manaparta. You develop attachment for me, and that is the solution. He says, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So that has to be done. How to transform or transfer the attachment we naturally have in the heart from anything non-Krishna to Krishna. Now there are so many attachments, generally for family, or for a deer, or a cat, or a dog. And this attachment should be transferred. It should be transformed, so it's focused on Krishna. And then again, as we already explained, then at the end of life, it's quite possible, it should come to that we naturally think of Krishna, and then Krishna says, you come to me. And otherwise, wherever you think, whatever you think, there you go. And if it's a deer, you become a deer, and if it's a dog, you become a dog, like that. So that is the science, how it works, the technical could say, the procedure, how one changes bodies and how the state of mind and the attachments will influence our future. Any questions or comments? It's a very simple understanding, actually. One just has to do it, because attachments, you can say it goes beyond rational thinking, which is, of course, many times a problem. Because we may know even something is not good, still we'll do it because of attachment, of a feeling, right? Many times people know, yeah, I know, but I can't help it. You cannot overcome the attachment, either to eat something, which is a very simple example. Many times you know, I shouldn't eat this. You are diabetic, whatever, you may have even some disease. You know, I shouldn't even look at it. Still, I cannot resist. You know, and that you can apply to so many other situations. We know, I know it's not good, but I'm attached because there's a taste. The ruchi has intensified to asakti. There's attachment, and you cannot avoid it. So therefore, by practicing, here Krishna says, by practicing this yoga in full consciousness, then the mind can become attached to me, and that is the only solution, because it has to be attached to something. If it's not attached to Krishna, it will be attached to a deer or a dog or your husband or wife or child or brother or sister, or whatever it may be. So that's how it works. Anyway, questions or comments? It was very quick.
Who? Myself?
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't know. He raised his hand.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. The point is that Bharat Maharaj is confused.
Yes.
In his duty. He is doing all these things out of his duty. He has sense of duty that if somebody comes or in my shelter, then I have to maintain him, I have to protect him, because he is a king, he is a Kshatriya. So this is the duty of Kshatriya or king. But now he is in Vānprastha-ashram or Sannyas-ashram. So this duty does not belong to Vānprastha-ashram or Sannyas-ashram.
What duty to protect?
To protect. Because in Sannyas-ashram, they are not protecting or they are not maintaining themselves. In sannyasi, as a sannyasi, or he goes to forest, he has to leave his body. So he does not care for his own body. So he does not have this duty to maintain or to protect other creatures. So he is confused in his duty.
Okay. Well, let's first of all get this clear. I know what you mean. You know, kshatriya means somebody who protects. Right? He's like a king is here. We have a king, King Bharata. So yes, in society, those who have a leading role, they have their subordinates or dependents, and they're supposed to protect them. Nevertheless, protection in general is a duty of everybody. If we see somebody in need, it's not that the sannyasi is so detached. That's false detachment. You see somebody suffering, that's not my duty. Call the king. By the time the king arrives, the person has died. So if there's a need, you protect. Even like in this case, you see an animal, you could see an animal like this deer floating in the water of the point of drowning. Now I think, I'm a sannyasi, that's not my duty. So you just look at it, nice drowning. No. If you can, you should try to save that living entity from drowning, whether you are a sannyasi or a kshatriya or a householder or a brahmachari or who, doesn't matter who you are. So, well, that's what I just wanted to clear up, but still it's true. Maharaj Bharat, you could say by nature, because he was a king, he may have felt this obligation to save the deer even more than maybe, let's say, a sannyasi living in the forest and seeing a deer almost drowning. He may not, well, that he's not a very advanced sannyasi if he becomes, indifferent like that. Anyway, but still, and that, of course, that's the first part of this whole story. Just to save the deer is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That we should understand. The act of saving the deer is not only not wrong, it's right. It's a good thing. He saved that little animal from death, but he should have left it like that. Maybe even because it was practically came out of the womb, so it couldn't, in the very beginning, like a small baby, they can't just survive on their own. So maybe in the very beginning, let's say a few days or weeks, he should have taken care of it, giving it, feeding it, until it is grown up sufficiently to now live on its own. That would have been okay. But he went beyond this point. Although the deer was already capable of going on its own into the forest, he wanted to keep it. That's the difference, and that's the mistake. Right? Because sometimes, naturally, the deer would go. And if he would have encountered some other deer, he would probably even go with them and not come back to this, king there. So, but as it is said here, what was it? Bharat Maharaj sometimes could not see the deer. It had gone. And his mind became agitated. Instead of saying, oh, wonderful, now he's grown up, you go on your own, I don't have to worry about you anymore. It was just the opposite. He became agitated because his affection had already gone to the deer. His heart had become transformed. So when the deer was gone, he would be filled with anxiety. And he would lament due to separation. That's the problem. You should not feel separation from a deer. Not even from other human beings. Although, yes, in family life that's very difficult. Therefore, there's a whole process. You may have a family for so many years, but at one point, this kind of attachment should be given up. Children are grown up. Let them go. Don't, continue to worry and think about them all the time until practically you die. Then that's not very recommendable. So anyway, that's what happened to the Bharat Maharaj. He went beyond just protecting and saving the deer. So therefore, he was in trouble. Okay. Any other? Oh, yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj, he was thinking of the deers in his meditation. So then the meditation was said a false meditation. So similarly, if we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and we are not thinking of Krishna directly, we may be thinking of our services at that time or anything other, but not thinking of Krishna directly. So is that meditation or chanting is the right chanting?
Well, services, of course. Anyway, but we shouldn't think of anything else. I mean, when Prabhupada was asked what we should think of, he replied, just hear the sound. Don't even, the devotee was asking, or Shivananda, whether he should think of Krishna's pastimes, for example, which sounds like, a good idea, right? And Prabhupada said, no, you just focus on hearing the sound. Don't artificially try to think of something, even in relationship with Krishna. I mean, this will come, but you don't have to, do something like that artificially. So, yes, The idea is, if we chant, we should just chant and hear the sound of Krishna's name. That's all. Other things may enter the mind, but as you said, yes, then it's kind of false in one sense. Here it says, you could say like that. So that if we notice it, if we become conscious of it, then we should try to pull the mind back and put it back on Krishna's name. That's all. It's practice. It may not be possible all the time. The mind goes away, again, thinks of other things. As soon as you notice, pull it back. So, what else can you do? But it should be focused on just hearing the sound of Krishna's name. That's the basic idea.
Hare Krishna. Maharaji, what should be the main force pushing us, miseries and trouble of this material world, or desire to attain Krishna's association in his abode?
Wait. Where is this coming from? You?
Yes.
Is it readable? Because from sound it's very difficult to understand. What should be the main force pushing us, misery and trouble of this material world, or desire to attain Krishna's association in the abode? I have a hard time to understand the question. Can you reformulate it for me in a simple way? Does it have anything to do with the class?
Yes.
Good. Otherwise, we leave it for the end, if there's no other. We should focus on what we have spoken in the class.
Like in the lecture, you were told that this world is very miserable.
Well, Krishna says, Dukkhala
Yes. So most of the time, even in our preaching, we use this word to inspire them to practice Krishna consciousness. Yes. But now we are practicing for a long time. Like I have, it is 5 years since I have joined as brahmachari here.
Okay.
So now, what should be my consciousness like?
What do you mean?
Now, like I know that it is miserable.
Okay.
And at the same time.
But you forget sometimes. That's the problem. I still forget. It's 50 years, so you know. Don't think after 5 years you're already, it's done. Yeah, I know it's miserable, but you tend to forget. That's Maya's business. She covers us. So we have to remember. We have to, if we read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam again and again and hear Srila Prabhupada preaching, then it's hard to forget, because he mentions it so many times, again and again and again. He knows we forget. So one has to become very much convinced and conscious, constantly conscious. Don't forget. Therefore Krishna says, Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshana. Always have it in front of you. Always see it. Don't forget it. There's these 4 miseries. That's the basic problem, and we have to solve the problem. And how you solve it? By not taking birth again. That's it. No more janma. If you have no more janma, automatically no more mrityu, no more vyadi, no more jara. Problem solved.
We have to see it as a problem. Just like if we desire liberation, then it is also not recommended in the scriptures. It is mukti. Like I was asking this.
I don't understand your question.
Like if we have only desire to get liberation.
No, who says that? Yeah, that's what you are saying. Something fell off. Yeah, try to clarify.
Yes, I want to clarify.
What is the point? What are you asking?
Yes, I'm asking that if, like Krishna also say, dosanu darshanam, you see it and solve this problem of again and again taking birth and death. So then if we have desire to get rid of this only, then it is the desire of mukti, just get rid.
Well, if it's real mukti, no problem.
Yes.
No? Mukti hidvan matarupa swarupena vyavastiti. That's the real meaning of mukti, that you become situated in your constitutional position. So that's good.
Yes.
We don't talk about the other type of impersonal mukti.
Yeah.
So
solve this problem and then you engage in service of Krishna.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
My question was about the solution you gave, which was discussed. Solution to attachment is to practice Krishna conscious. Anything other than Krishna, in this, anything other than attachment to Krishna is cause of bondage.
Yes.
And one example which was given was like I have got some disease and I know this should not be eaten. It is not good for me, but still my mind will give so many justifications. Okay, it is prasad. So, and there are many other things where mind will give reasons. This service is good, but I am attached to it. So, how can we? The solution was to practice.
Practice.
So, how can someone who is attached practice?
No.
He will practice
if you think, when Krishna explains the yoga system to Arjuna in the 6th chapter, you remember that? And when Arjuna says, Chanchala, Imana Krishna, forget it, it's too difficult, the mind is always disturbed. Krishna, what does he reply? Well, first of all, he says, you're right. It's correct. That's how it is. So how to solve it? By practice and detachment. Abhyasa and yuktena. These are the two only methods. So then what does practice mean? Prabhupada explains. Hearing, primarily hearing about Krishna. If we hear sufficiently, then the mind becomes changed. It should become purified and changed. Hearing is very powerful. If you don't hear, hearing includes reading, is also hearing. If we don't hear, then we forget. Even just chanting without hearing becomes sentimental. We have to hear real knowledge and become convinced. Then it becomes possible by practice. Every day, nityam Bhagavata sevaya, not just once a week or once in a while. Should be as much as possible. And then, it's definitely possible. Why not?
Then we can practice the limbs of devotion with detachment, because we are attached to Bhagavatam.
Well, attachment, as I said, and Krishna says, attachment you cannot avoid. Actually, attachment is very good. Maya sakta mana partha. If you're attached to Krishna, then the greater the attachment, the better. Attachment in itself is nothing bad. But when you attach to anything material, then it's our downfall. Like Bharat Maharaj Prabhupada very clearly says in those purports, it's the downfall. And it shows how he falls into the material world from his superior, practically spiritual position. He falls down. You can't fall down. So that has to be avoided, because the possibility, the danger is always there. So therefore this association is so important. And hearing. If we hear the wrong thing and we associate with the wrong kind of persons, then you fall. Or even with a deer. It doesn't have to be even a person, as you can see. You become attached to a deer, and then you also fall.
Maharaj, can something related to Krishna, like my personal, I'll speak it out. Can the mridanga become the deer for someone?
You become attached to the mridanga. You're going to embrace the mridanga. That's okay. It's good. Why not? It's better than embracing something else. At least embrace the mridanga. We have to embrace something. If we feel I want to embrace something, embrace the mridanga. Don't embrace a dog or a deer or some lady walking. It happens. We laugh, but it happens all the time. So, that's again the same point. Attachment to love, to embrace, and all these things are natural. So it has to be transferred. That's all. If you feel it's the Mridanga, okay, let it be the Mridanga. I mean, anything in relationship with Krishna is okay also. Because we cannot pretend, I want to embrace Krishna directly. That's not a good idea. We should embrace the lotus feet of the devotees and our spiritual master. That's a good idea. But that means embracing their instructions. It's not, necessarily physical. But anyway, you get the point.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. It was very nice to learn about many different points. I wanted to ask about attachment only. Like also Kapil Dev says that attachment to a sadhu is very important. And also we discussed in the purports in previous classes that if we are attached to spiritual things, it opens the gate for liberation. So like you and many other Prabhupada disciples are so much attached to Prabhupada. So how do we are not, so please tell us something like how to develop attachment to Prabhupada.
Hearing, I already said it. You hear, and you become attached. And you read, and you should become attached to hearing the philosophy, and appreciate how Srila Prabhupada explains it so expertly, and it changes our life. So it's not so difficult. You just have to do it. There's no difference, because the message is for everybody the same, and everybody can become attached. Not just those who have had maybe direct experience. Like, Prabhupada even says the same thing about Arjuna and Krishna. He says sometimes we may think, oh, Arjuna was so fortunate, Krishna was speaking to him directly and this and this and this. He said, there's no difference. We have Bhagavad Gita, we have Krishna's words, we can hear Krishna speak. It's as good as when Arjuna was hearing Krishna directly. So we have Prabhupada's books, we have his lectures, we have everything. So for you it's as good as for those who may have had the direct experience. There's no difference. And we have seen that, yes, those of the second or third or whatever generation you want to call it, there are devotees who have developed a very deep appreciation and affection for Prabhupada, more than some who may have had direct contact and who after some days or weeks or months or years went away. Where are they now? That doesn't, that's not very important. It is important, but it's not something so mystical as some people believe. The real association is by the instructions. And if you follow, then you become connected. And that's the solution to everything. All right. I think time is over. One last one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patit Pavan. He elevated animals and Jagai Madhaya and many other asuras. So we devotees who are struggling in chanting and in Krishna consciousness, why doesn't he attract our minds?
Why?
Why doesn't he attract our mind?
Why doesn't he attract? Why not? He does. But it depends on us to be receptive to the attraction. Don't you think? I mean, Krishna is all attractive, right? That's his name. He's all attractive to everybody. But some don't like him. How does that come? Well, we have some free will. It's not that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't attract us. He does. But we have to also do something to be attracted. It's not, he doesn't force us to be attracted. That wouldn't work. Krishna doesn't force. He's all attractive. Still, he doesn't force you to be attracted. You may, like Kamsa. He doesn't like Krishna, or others. You can cite so many personalities, demons, who didn't want to have anything to do with Krishna. They wanted to kill Krishna. But still he's all attractive. But if we choose this other kind of relationship, then that's our doing, our problem. So, I don't know what to tell you. have to, hear. If you're sitting here, so some attraction must be there, no? I mean, why are you saying that he's not attracting us? I don't understand.
I mean full absorption.
Full is, we are on the way to full, no? But you want to get there, right?
Yes.
So then that's good enough. You're on your way. Don't become impatient. If you follow the process as given by the acharyas, they're telling us how to get there. If you do that, you'll get there. Maybe not in one day. Like, a young lady or young woman becomes married, she wants to have a child. You have to wait at least 9 months, minimum. Krishna consciousness is not exactly like that. Like Prabhupada said, you can become Krishna conscious in 1 second. But that's very rare. Generally, it takes a little time because we are contaminated and the contamination has to go. So the Cetodarpana Marjanam process, that depends on each individual person how long that will take. But if you continue the process, it's only a matter of time. You'll get there, and the mirror will be clear, and then you can see yourself and the Lord, and there will be full attraction. So don't worry. Just Nishchaya, Utsahan, Nishchayat, and Dhairyat. You are enthusiastic, determined, and patient. Satovrite, you follow everything is there in our scriptures. And if you do these 6 things, success guaranteed. Okay, Hare Krishna, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Sri Gaurvani Thai, Sri Radha Parthasarthi, Sita Lakshmana Hanuman, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.